Here we are doing some painting now up in Scotland, some of my favourite spots from the past. This being one of them, a little research lock just above Loch Lomond. So we've worked our way up to Loch Lomond and then we're going across the day, up to midday, to Loch Long at Arrochar. So here we have freshwater locks, and then over there it's a sea lock. But again, all very well sheltered. We're going to use different mediums, have a go at a bit of watercolour, a bit of pastel, and some acrylics. We haven't brought oils with us this time. And I'm going to show you ways of doing very, very fast studies. For instance, last night I was doing quick studies, 10 to 15 minutes a piece of pastels, 4 within the hour, just to show you how fast you can work with that medium, doing the old-fashioned block and blending techniques on pastel paper. We're doing a white canvas today with acrylic. We're doing some watercolour later as well. This place would suit both ideally, wouldn't it? And of course in between I'll be doing a little bit of fishing as well, because I would like to do that. So here we are then, west coast of Scotland, beautiful scenery, a few midges, but it's nice to come back to some old haunts again. I hope you enjoy it with me as much as I'm going to enjoy it, and already have been in fact. We took a little boat out yesterday for an hour and it rained for the first 10 minutes and soaked us, and then it was beautiful again. The weather keeps changing so quickly, so constantly, but absolutely lovely to be out here again. Hi there, here we are at Loch Long in Scotland. Beautiful day with lots of white fluffy cumulus clouds floating past and a beautiful scene of the loch which you've just seen on camera going up to my left here. Big sheet of hot pressed watercolour paper for mixed medium. I'm going to use China graph pencil and watercolour and acrylic inks because we've got a lovely depth of colour in these foreground areas at the front with the weeds and so on. And we've got then the delicate sky and the loch going back into the distance. Let's start loading up my acrylic inks. Now I keep a separate set of these. They're very bright, very strong and water-based. So you can do all the wet into wet effects with them. But I tend to use the watercolours first and then these stronger colours towards the end. Or they're just as good on their own as our watercolours. Careful where you get them though, because they're very strong and if you spill them onto yourself, you'll have a job getting them off. But these acrylic inks are colour fast, unlike the ordinary Indian inks, and that means that your painting will remain the same colours you've started it in the future. Nice with these dispensing bottles because you can just drop the colours from the nozzles, squeeze the back and just drop them into your palettes. You can mix them the same as watercolour and thin them down with water. Very basic set of colours that I keep for the inks. So what I'm going to do is build up the watercolour and then the inks, and then pastel over the top. I'm going to do quite a strong drawing with the China graph pencil first as well. China graph pencil because I'm able to use, it's waterproof and nice and strong, and I can paint over the top of it with it still showing strongly. I just carry my travelling box. All I need in here: masking fluid, spare watercolour, sponge, a basic set of brushes and my 2 little watercolour palettes, and of course a jar of water straight from the Scottish stream to make life rather fun. Let's get on with our painting then. I'm going to start off with taking out my China graph pencil. That's this one. These are rather nice because not only are they waterproof, but you can also sharpen them simply by tearing down the string and off a piece of paper, and you've no knife to have to use out in the field. I've made my first 2 marks. I've decided how the entire composition will be basically. Unless I want to move the odd thing around as Constable did, you actually change there slightly, and why not? Right, I'm going to use a hake brush now, a nice big 1-inch hake, to paint an undercoat for my sky of yellow ochre, which I can dab out and give these white fluffy cloud effects and drop in the blues around them. I'm not bothered about the trickles, just wipe them up and get on with it. It's a nice lively loose painting. And we'll lift the clouds out with tissue paper. Just dab it on and wipe away the areas you want, slightly drier in the middle, getting lighter towards the outsides. Now let's enjoy colour. We'll start off with cerulean lower down, work around all those clouds. Wind's quite strong now and drying the paper rather rapidly, so it's not going to be an easy job. Going to use a touch of Viridian with the sky as well as the cerulean now. Keep it lovely and loose. We can work over each way with a pastel later. Now a bit of cobalt blue. We shall use more upwards into the warmer ultramarine later. So plenty of cobalt going up into the middle area now. The cobalt's a warmer blue than the cerulean. And then as I go further up into the sky and the sky gets warmer higher up into the atmosphere, I'll start to add some ultramarine as well. And here we go with the ultramarine. What a beautiful rich colour that is. I do love ultramarine. Ultramarine also granulates into a rougher paper as well, which gives you a nice texture in the recesses and the texture of the paper. It's great fun. I can add the greys now by mixing my burnt sienna with some ultramarine. That way you can get a warm grey or a cool grey. You can work either way by adding more of the warm or the cool colour. Nice big fluffy clouds right down to the hills. I shall work with wet into wet again now on the background and the hills, starting with a yellow ochre wash at first, a little stronger than the previous wash with the sky. Now I shall come down a brush size and use my oval mop, one of my favourite brushes, which will give me much more control on those distant hills and more detail. I'm not trying to be exact, just playing with the light, atmosphere and the feeling of the place, enjoying myself with the paint. It's important to be aware of the blues amongst the greens, especially in the distance. I can gradually build up the distance towards the foreground by increasing the warms and tightening the wet into wet as it dries. If the paint gets too dry, I can always use a spray diffuser to soften it. It's especially useful when using the acrylic ink, because once the ink dries, you can't soften it back again or blend it. Here we go with the acrylic inks, cerulean dropped in freshly and loosely. See how it contrasts with the watercolour? Now some warmer colours as I come into the foreground, some cadmium orange. Play the warm and cool greens against each other as well. Remember the blues in the greens and the brown greens. There's warms of all colours, so there might be a warm blue and a cool blue. A cool blue would be cerulean, a warm blue would be going towards the ultramarine or the reds. And a lemon yellow is cool and yellow ochre is warm. We've finished the watercolour and I've built up the coloured inks in the bottom to give a stronger foreground. Now I want to lay over the Unison pastels, which is quite a loose and lively effect that enables me to tighten up areas as I wish. It will also show you why I have the papers taken off the pastels so I can use them sideways and nice and freely. Just scumbling over the sky and softening or highlighting any edges I need to highlight. The wind is very strong now and the tide coming in quickly, so I'm having to work very, very quickly. It is also why I've had to dub this part over, because you can't hear a word with the wind blowing in the microphone. Well, I think I'm almost there. It's nice and lively, it's bright, it's used all the three techniques of the light watercolour showing through, the stronger inks at the bottom, and the pastels just gently glazing over the top, picking out the brighter colours. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go on from here to looking at a painting that's been lost, one I did yesterday with just coloured inks up in the woodland, and it rained so hard that I just got drowned. Let's see if we can bring that back to life by putting pastels over the top and bringing the light colours out, shall we? You never know when you're going to find a lovely composition or something might surprise you. Carry the camera whenever you can. Here's a good example. These deer were just hiding by the pathway as I went through the woodland, and I got these lovely shots which I was able to paint from later. You can see I've used composites of the shots taken, put them together on the computer and move the deer around to have light against dark, dark against light, and make a nice composition. Here's a scene I've known for some years, this lovely old bridge going over the river. Hello, I said we'd now come and try and rescue a watercolour, in this case a coloured ink that had been overworked and got too wet yesterday. You see it here, my pastels and the ink. What I'm going to do is put all the light areas and all the colour back in and use the remaining dark areas to glow through. Quite a nice way of working. You can see an immediate advantage here in that I'm able to lay the lights over the darks and work either way. So although the acrylic ink has been well washed out by the rain the previous day, I'm able to bring back highlights and details and sharp edges with the pastels, or blend and scumble if I wish to. Okay. You can also see how I've managed to bring back those vibrant warms into the foreground too, the bright oranges and yellows that you couldn't put back in with transparent watercolour. There, look, the sunlight in the foreground that I've managed to bring back over those darks. Now here's a spot I always love every year, on the road to Inverary. Can pass this bridge and then to a smokehouse. Wonderful stuff, smoked mussels, smoked salmon, and lots of little delicacies that I can eat on the way and have as a picnic. And then we go on from that road down to Inverary, pretty little fishing port. Not user fishing now, of course, but still a very, very pretty place to go. And Inverary Castle, a lovely place to visit, as you'll see. here's the proof of the pudding. As I said, here we are at Loch Fyne, just above Inverary, eating those lovely smoked Loch Fyne mussels and smoked salmon and prawns and all sorts of fresh bread and lovely goodies. Now, I enjoy the good things in life as most people do, and an ordinary bottle of whiskey to 20 or 30 pounds is fine for me, but just look at the price of some of this. Wonderful stuff, and in fact they actually make and blend their own whiskey up there, but £10,000 for a bottle? Would you dare have a sip? What you'll notice here also is a difference in photography. Where you point the camera at a light object, the darker objects in front will become very dark. If you come down to the darker objects and then have more light, there you have it, then the lighter objects become much lighter and the darker objects can be seen. This can be quite difficult unless you're using filters with a camera, and if you're working from photographs, sometimes you've got to take several to be able to compare the tonal variations and colours. Photographs are great to work from. I work from a lot myself, but they're there to be used, not copied. And that's where the computer can come in as well. You can play a lot with them on the computers and change their values and all sorts. This wonderful old stonework here, and going back centuries, beautifully made, and of course it's interesting to see what the Vandals have done in those days, back in the 1800s and so on. And where would we be without hearing the Highland pipes? And even the children are up to it on the caravan site, and that's why I take my caravan up there and use it as a mobile studio and travel around. But on the site, these two youngsters, quite proficient, playing away down the bottom of the field. Wonderful to hear them as the sound echoes around the hills and the lochs. Now remember what I said about water and how to paint it. I'm going to freeze a couple of shots here just to show you what I mean. While the water's moving, we recognise it as water. We can see the reflections, we can see the movement. But once you stop it, it just looks like a bunch of white foam, or polystyrene, or plastic. It's going to take gestural brush strokes and a lot of rapid movement of the hand and brush strokes to try and get this effect of water. You can't do it just by trying to represent it as a photograph. As you can see, a still photograph just doesn't show it. There, look. That could just be like a cotton wool. So how are we going to get the feeling of water? By very gestural strokes. All of these pastels you're now seeing are paintings done on Ongres paper and in Ongres pastel pad. Rather fun, very fast, all done in between 10 and 15 minutes to catch the effect of light on site, and all of these pictures are done over Loch Lomond. Some beautiful sunsets there. Now I'm going to put the next warmer blue on, that's this one, which is cobalt blue. And it'll give me that different blue there, look. You see, it's a slightly warmer blue. When I say warmer, I mean that we go from
like
the
dark.
reddy brown to a cooler brown, in this case a warmer blue to a cooler blue. So we go,
Father.
it's more purpley blue. So that gives us almost the colours for the boat, doesn't it? That's given us the soft tones. Just don't change the reflection. Dropping in the greys for the bottoms of the clouds now. I can talk to it again now. Reflection into the smoother one. Just little bits of it, like that. Even just through the buoy a bit. Into the reflections of the boat as well. Coming out of here the same way. Just let it gently reflect down through. You see how lovely that looks there. Right, well, as you can see here, I've finished the sky, the water, all the basic reflections are in, and I've put in these little bits of dark weed just to give the surface of the water a little bit more texture so that we've got the soft against the rough and then the light against the dark and the cool against the warm. Coming down to the bottom here where the gravel is, you can see I've let the underpainting just come underneath the surface of the water and brought some textures closer to us where the ripples are, and the little bits of stone are a bit darker to give again texture of smooth against rough. So I reckon that little picture's quite pretty, it'll do. It's only a fast study, but it's taken me just over 3/4 of an hour. Well, here we have another chance for a watercolour and pastel. This rather lovely view behind me of the waterfall cascading down. And I'm going to draw it out lightly first in charcoal pencil, then put watercolour washes on till an almost finished, fairly strong watercolour, and hopefully then, once it's dry, build up with the pastel over the top to give my final lights and darks. Work a little cerulean into it. You get a lovely effect of soft light coming down through these trees. And we'll work wet next to wet and wet into wet rather than a whole block of wet paper and wet into wet this time. You see how nice and light and alive, and quite often my students have turned out watercolours like this so loosely for pastel that they've loved them as they are and not bothered with the pastel at all, just left them alone. I'll just stop the camera there and work in it a little bit more and then show you again when I'm ready to go on with the pastel. Right, I think that'll do for my watercolour. Now I'll start working onto it in pastel. You see, it's quite a nice, light, lively effect. And I could take the watercolour further, but I've no need to for this one. Now the atmosphere is still very damp here, so watercolour taking a bit of time to dry. The thing with these soft pastels, these unisons expressly, is that they are water soluble. Any ordinary soft pastel will blend with water. You can mix them with water, you can even brush them onto the pastel and then onto the painting. You can put the pastel on and then wet it in. In this case I've still got some wet areas. And I'm going to work straight into both dry and wet areas. But if I want my highlights, obviously I've got to wait for the paint to dry more to see them, because the wet pastel will dry a tone down. Anyway, let's get started with these wonderful range of unisons. And I'll start with some of the darks. We could actually take a wet brush and finally draw out some of these twigs if we wanted to, just to give a bit more crispness to some of those. Where the pastels are very large and chunky, it's quite possible to use water and a fine brush just to give a bit more finesse, a bit more sharpness to the twigs. I don't think I will in this case because I'm quite happy with the explosive quality of it. And this is what I used to call the Jewel Beach when I used to come here years ago, because it's covered in quartz and bits of granite. It's a lovely little beach. So we've set up now, the rain's just gone again, and we're going to do a watercolour rather than a pastel because the weather keeps changing so fast. I just want to have a quick go. There we go. Rain's sheeting down again now, so we have to go. Just want to do a little bit more now I'm back in the caravan because the wet into wet effects have gone very wet into wet. We've lost some of the detail, and because it was so raining so hard there I could not carry on. I just want to bring out some of these foreground textures a bit more here before we finish it. Wow, you've got one. Swing it up. these magical places. You can see the mackerel even coming up on the surface here. You can see the mackerel just at this buoy here, going mad. There's rats on top. See how the smoke is curing the fish. So there's some of the mackerel now smoked, and it's absolutely beautiful. Well, it really doesn't come any better than that. You can see hot smoked mackerel now just been catching. That really is the most beautiful flavour. Superb. Now what we're after, or the larger version, is this. The ragworm. It's only a small one, but we should be able to get some nice big ones. There you go, it's a nice little one. Well, I think we've got enough bait there now. Plenty of worm and some cockles. Right, we're going to use a very simple sliding rig. And all I have to do is just watch the rod tip. So far, after the first few minutes, we've got a bite. This rather evil little thing called a scorpion fish, which we do not want to pick up without a knife, because it's got poisonous sharp fins on it. It's a little bit on the fly rod, but that's good fun.
Yeah, that's a first.
We'll get it out again. Seal over there. Decide what composition we want, and it's a lovely old bridge. Do I get a bit of mountain in or not, or do I just go for the bridge itself? Quite an interesting composition. I might just have to work out a little bit in pencil first of all. Doesn't want much at the bottom here. Just a little bit of the grass coming in here. And the bridge coming up and over. Keep it very simple. So get this arch right of the bridge. So a very quick, simple light drawing, because I've got to work very fast because the weather's always changing here and I won't have that long, I'm sure, before the rain comes again. Get the proportions about right. The bridge comes right over here beautifully, just off my paper slightly, and we'll bring up these lumps of grasses to go up and through there. Let it come off the paper slightly there. Let the bridge come way off and across and down there. At the moment I've got Rosie fishing there, which is rather nice. So I might better get her in a little bit. I'm going to paint... Yeah, stay there. I'm going to paint you. Put the doggy in. Now, because I've got the figure in, she's going to be the first thing I need to paint to get her done before she moves. Mountain going at the back there. There's plants and things here. And that's it, we'll get painted. That's all we need. We need to get the sky in pretty quickly. You always do the skies first. But also I need to get her done as well, so I need to use two brushes. Put in some yellow on that. And through there, and a bit of cerulean. Give that greeny colour to her coat. And quickly paint in the dunes. Just lift out a bit on the shoulders. Paint up the brush. A bit of rose on her face, and on the hair. Now I'm giving ultramarine up in here for the warmer blue, darker blue. Underneath her arm. Fishing rod. Darker under her hair, under her neck. She's just lost a small trout just now, which is quite fun. Push him into there. A little bit darker under here. And the dog. You can do almost with thin down coats of purple and Russian. Lighten there a bit, take a bit of that out onto the face before we come in with the dark behind there afterwards. There we go. Now let's get the sky in quick. And for that I'm going to put on a layer of raw sienna and paint a very wet into wet sky here. Nice rough paper I'm using. It's a heavy £300 rough. Some of this colour's getting into my paint, it shouldn't be there. So I want a very thin wash first of all of this raw sienna all over. Don't leave any white. And then straight in with mixing my ultramarine and burnt sienna, which allows me different greys. I want nice big grey. I'm painting on the vertical, so it's not that easy, and I'm going to let one colour run into another, give these big fluffy grey effects. More blue over there. Quite light over the bridge, a bit darker up here. Some very dark clouds coming up down behind there, so I'm going to go a bit stronger there. Let that go quite dark through here into there. Going to still run down, can't help that, but it will give me this feeling of this very wet day. Just dabbling those in and then letting them trickle down afterwards, give you the effects I want. Right. Very, very strong there, so I'm going to go even stronger still. A bit more brown there as well, into that dark sky above. And then the bluer colour coming down below that. Right, now the bridge. We've got to get into the bridge in the background. Let that dry off just a bit. Got the mistiness of the hill coming down. And the willow ochre again coming in the background here. Just gently blending in. I'll come back on that in a moment as well. These trees want to be wet into wet too. Quite warm at first. I'll let those dry a bit. There's a cooler green, a bluey green going on behind. Come back into that in a minute. But while I'm at it, we'll start to work on the figure here and around it. Again with the yellow ochre and a bit of that green. Plenty of that colour going on here. A bit of rolling yellow, nice transparent yellow, and just paint it over the foreground here where the grasses are there. A little bit stronger till it drops down through here, shooting amongst that grass. Now that yellow ochre that we were using earlier wants to come in to the river here. A little bit of cerulean as well. Get the rippling effect of the water in a moment. First I just want to get the lights of the water. Back into these trees up here. Not quite dry enough yet, but almost. I'm going to take some Prussian blue and a little bit of sienna. See if we can get the feeling of these pine trees. So Prussian blue and a little bit of raw sienna. The rain's coming down now. I'm just speckling my paper a bit, so it's not ideal, but it's quite warm, the bridge. So I want to get those rapidly as I can, get the warmth of the bridge in. Get right over that. I'm going to use some Indian red here, right round the figure. Right across into there. Very, very, very wet day, so I've got a lot of humidity and the painting isn't going to dry quickly, but I just want to get an undercoating on there. Now, while that's drying off a bit, put a hard edge under that. Doesn't help this very wet weather. The rain is coming down now quite strongly on me. I haven't got much chance of success with this, but we'll have a go. Bring some purple into these stonework. And the trouble is I'd like to paint wet over dry as well, but the rain is coming down so heavily now I'm going to have to stop the painting for a moment. Because it's just going to trickle all the way down. Well, the rain certainly messed things up there. You can see how it's all trickled down. Let's see what we can do. I'll try and rescue it, but basically the watercolour is a bit of a mess now. It's still drizzling a bit, but let's see what we can do on it. Come back into those trees in the background there. Prussian and willow oak. And just darken in these areas here up against the background. We still might have quite a fun painting. It's still everything's still possible. Use the blade with the brush as well to get the feeling of these. pine trees. Dark is still into there and warmth of the and there's these trees coming up in the background which will just indicate a little wet into wet. And that little mountain coming through the yellow there. On the top of the bridge, little plants. So having a bit of Orion in yellow just being dropped in. Got these plants right there. And same back here. We might manage to rescue it a bit. After all, it is reflecting the day. Still a lot of rain coming down, but I've got to do my best to try and get this done. Really it's very dark along that line. So let's see what we can do with some burnt sienna and Prussian blue. Get the feeling of this bridge. Very dark under there. Yeah, you fish the pools, you might get something lovely.
Yeah.
It just ruined the sky,
Oh,
but
shame.
see what I can do.
Your camera be alright?
Yes, I just dried it off. Be okay. Much warmer back in here. Get the feeling of these mottled stones just by doubling the brush across it. A bit dark against that figure. The best we can to rescue it. Under here it's very, very dark. There's that red coming in again from somewhere. Oh, somehow I've got some. No, it's happened. I don't want it under there. It's a slightly broken edge of the stonework. Right down into there. Even to the trees in the background, there's little dark pine trees and things that are happening back here. Very dark against the light up there. Use the legs too much, we just bring her out a bit. And we need to find some of the stonework down here. I told you so it's very dark. I brought the painting back a bit from the dead. Just lift out a little bit of that, put a wee bit of green back in there. Now let's look at the greens here. Then I'm going to come in with my oriole and yellow wash first, and then put some cool into that. feeling of these ferns here. Just got to look at how and where things come here now. And the stones that are coming out behind there. And how the water flows down through here, rippling across. The rain's coming down yet again. Find a few rocks there. We're almost, for a study, we're almost done. We don't need to do too much more to this, so we're going to lose it altogether in this rain, which is rather fun, but not what we were after. Building up these light and dark tombs. Over here, a bit more. Worms. Just finish that little bridge off. Maybe a little bit more into the background. Feeling of the hills and the trees up here. So wet into wet, it's unbelievable. Looks out a bit here and there. Reflecting down a little bit into the water. A very wet day and a very wet into wet watercolour. trouble is once you've lost the drawing, it's easy to get it back again. I had just a couple of brush marks. What I'm going to do up here is redo that piece because it's been lost with the rain. I want to come over it again and see if I can just rework that bit. It may not work, it may. I might just be able to bring that back. I don't think we're going to be able to do much more because it's just so wet, so much coming into this that I'm having a hell of a job. Yeah, it's raining too much, I'm going to have to stop. Stop it at that, and never got an atmospheric watercolour, but not quite as I would have liked, but it'll have to do. We'll come back after the rain, about 5 hours later, to try and finish something off here. It won't be very easy, because the painting drowned earlier, as I did. It's drier. Just try and make it a bit more part of the I've got no light paint to paint in with, not even any white gouache. I've got to lift out the paint to put it right afterwards now. The tones have changed totally since this morning. Things just need a brush stroke or two. It's just getting that right. Now, let's go back to more textural work. I'm going to take a hake brush now and try a bit few of the darks into here with a hake brush and texture. I think that might be too dark, we'll have a go. It's got too wet today to do anything, and now I've got a chance to come back and put some of those things right, even though it's a bit late on. But the midges are a bit nuts now. It's very even light now as well. Yeah. We'll just try and indicate a few the texture and grasses that we didn't quite manage this morning. I'll put it together just a little bit more. Because everything was just joining up so much, couldn't find light from dark. And now we can. find some more texturing in this stone because everything just turned into mush with all that rain on it this morning. Nothing I could do. Now I can just try and bring it back again. I need to try and lift some bits out here and there where the paint just got completely lost in the wet. See if we can lift out a light edge there. It needs to be light all the way along here. You might be lucky and be able to lift it out. Yeah, that's better. Just bring that light back to that edge there. And in places just behind there, we'll go back to darken it again. Now the sky behind, not to be too much with. It might be nice to just try and make a few more clouds there again, although it's not far off actually. As it should be. Well, I can feel the rain coming on again. Just doesn't let up this. A little bit browner up there to make that blue bluer. Same here. Even more green to the bridge here to link it over. I don't think we can do a lot more on it because it'll be a different painting if I do, but because it's got evening light now, we're as near as I possibly can to that, I think. A bit of foreground, texturing in the grasses, just to lead the eye in. So we had a hake come in again, I think. Hake's quite good for grassy effects like that. You can see you can get lots of little lines with it. Bring in some texture in here against the stonework. The same over here, a little bit. We'll come back to our water trickling through here. I'll try and just get that water a bit better. Some of these darks, real darks down amongst the stonework. Quite dark against the sky. It's the background there now. So we can come back into a painting, and even when I think it's completely lost, just sometimes we can get it back. I'm not saying this is as good as it would have been if I'd got it straight through at the time, but we've certainly managed to improve it, I think, by giving it another go. Quite dark tones now. Moving this forward. These mozzies are starting to get to me. Scottish midges are just getting a bit much now. Still not sure about this area here. I can lift out a bit from there, or just a bit lighter. Yeah, and I think we're about done. Well, not ideal, but rather overworked now. But it shows that even with the worst of weathers, we can come back and at least try and pull something back. Sometimes you can overwork something, sometimes it wants a bit more. Let's give it a bit more, and even if we wreck it, so what? The chances of things working or not working. Let's run so much there, and that would lift a bit out. Take a bit away. That'll have to do. Not really happy. I'd like to have been a lot looser, but considering it got rained on not once but 3 times, I think it'll have to do.